I'm freaking out.
I can tell by your voice. I think this is the most freaked out you've been of any of the teams. Why is that?
Sometimes I just don't like I get a bad feeling, right? I just get bad vibes.
Are you normally right with your bad feelings?
No. Scoop City is brought to you by Thursday Night Football on Prime Video. Hi, everybody. Welcome in. I'm the Athletic Senior NFL Insider, Dianna Russini.
And I'm Chase Daniel, played 14 years in the NFL.
Chase, we've got a quarterback benched already. It's week 2.
Come on. Who are you talking? Are you talking about Bryce Young?
We are starting week 3, and we are going to see Andy Dalton for the Carolina Panthers. I'm shocked. I'm telling you right now,
yeah.
I did not see that coming. I like to think I know a lot of things. Guess what? I don't. I know nothing, apparently, because I did not think that the organization would do this.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to dive into it with you because I want to know what you see, because I think the normal fan sees it one way, but perhaps maybe you as the expert here at the quarterback position know a little bit more, maybe made some more observations. So we're going to get to that, but we're also going to talk about the other 0-2 teams that have started the year out. The Panthers aren't the only ones.
A lot of good ones.
They've got tons of company. So we're going to get into, are we believing in some of these 0-2 teams, or are we throwing our hands in the air at this point? So we'll figure out. I'm interested to see if we agree on this, because
I bet we don't.
I can tell you I'm freaking out about a lot of these teams. So we will see. But I tend to be a little anxious. You know that about me.
Yeah,
so.
You freak out.
Oh, freak out way too much. It's probably just too much coffee. All that. But we're also going to talk about the Chicago Bears, who are 1-1 headed into week 3. But the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, a little better this week. A little better, right?
He was better. He was definitely better at the line of scrimmage. But when you have 7 sacks and 2 turnovers at the end of the day, you didn't play well enough.
All right, well, we are going to take a little visit to our friends in Chicago and do a little deep dive on what's going on, where the big problems are, what they need to do better, and whether or not they really believe this can get fixed. And then finally, we've got a new segment. Okay, Chase, we are calling this segment Too Cute. Okay? It is my favorite phrase in football. Because any GM, head coach, whenever they're trying to explain situations, whether it's on the field, behind the scenes, draft time, free agency, don't get too cute, right? That's what they always say. Don't get too cute. So, I thought let's go through some of the moments in week 2 that, like, you're doing too much. You're doing too much.
Keep it simple, stupid. That's what Andy Reid used to tell me.
That was a smart piece of advice. But here's the thing. We've made mistakes too here where I think we may have gotten a little too cute. So I'm going to call you and
I stand by everything I say on this podcast. Every single thing.
I don't know. Wait till you hear what I'm calling you out for.
Okay. Yeah, you knew the segment. You could call me out. All right, now I'm going to come up with some stuff while we're filming and call you out on it as well.
All right, we don't have 6 years, all right? So, all right, let's get to it. Here's what I'm hearing around the league. All right, Chase, it is the fact that is swirling the NFL right now, and everyone probably knows it by now, but it's important to repeat it so I'm loud and clear. Since 2015, 74 teams have started 0-2. Only 8 of them have made the playoffs, all right? So here we are.
Dang.
We've got the Bengals, the Ravens, the Rams, the Colts, the Jags, the Giants, the Titans, the Broncos, and the Panthers, all 0-2 to start the season. So this leads me.
There's some good teams in that, Diana. Let's just stop. There's some amazing teams in that we thought were going to be a lot better. So I can't wait to do this segment.
I know. So this is how we're going to do this. Are we freaking out or are we figuring it out at this point? So we got to start with the Carolina Panthers, who made the decision to bench their number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young, after 2 games with their new head coach, Dave Canales, who recently just said, including ownership down, that Bryce Young is the starter of this organization moving forward just a few weeks ago. So,
last week he said it after the game.
Okay,
like
so the news came down on Monday. What was your first reaction when I texted you this was happening?
Well, you broke it to me as I was driving, and I'm a big no text when driving, but I looked down because I saw it was your name. I was like, oh my God. I was like, are you? And I sort of texted you back real quickly. I was like, are you sure? And all the people in the group text on Scoop was like, yeah, it's already out, Chase. I felt like chastised for it. But yeah, I mean, look, Diana, at the end of the day, The dude is 2-16. He's got 11 touchdowns and 13 interceptions and 18 starts. Film don't lie. Like that's what I'm going to say about this, and we can get into it further. But at the end of the day, the film don't lie when it comes to Bryce Young.
All right, so I would say, to just summarize it, we're freaking out about the Carolina Panthers, right? Because they appear to be this rudderless ship searching for an answer right now. And Dave Canales was brought in there to fix Bryce Young. We know Bryce Young last season was coached under Frank Wright, Josh McCown. They actually had a lot of different coaches working with him. It almost appeared that there were just a lot of voices there in Bryce's ear. And every week it just seemed like everyone was on a different page. And this year was supposed to be the year that they would bring it together and really figure out a way to get the most out of Bryce. Yeah. But I want to just start with this decision after 2 weeks. We'll get into why you think they benched him. Yeah. But when you make a decision like this, 2 weeks into your year as a coach, as the head coach here, and he says it was his call, right?
I don't know about that.
Well, newsflash, decisions like this do not get made without the blessing of an owner, right? So David Tepper, who is known to be very involved in the football operation, as much as he says he's not, the most involved owner, which is not a good thing, Diana. We'll get into that too, but continue. The most involved owner, not a good thing. So they make a decision, even though this is a team that believed that they were going to be good. They thought they were going to have a shot this year. And so now, just 2 weeks into the year, they decide that the quarterback that is supposed to be the building block, the piece they're building around for the future of the Panthers, is not good enough. Yeah. And they're going to sit him and start him for 37-year-old veteran Andy Dalton.
Andy's my guy. I like that Andy Dalton's getting a run at it. But yeah, I mean, without a doubt, I'm freaking out. But I'm also like, maybe they're figuring it out. Like maybe they're moving on from him early because they just saw something in the film that says, hey, this doesn't, 18 games. I just think at the end of the day, like it is a tough position to be in, because I've heard through many people that Bryce Young is just like an awesome dude. Like he loves like his teammates. He's a good teammate, all that stuff. So that's why this decision in that locker room is hard, right? Like it's not an easy decision that Dave Canales made. But at the end of the day, you ask, why did they make this? Well, they made it because Frank Wright got fired after 11 games last year. And my thought is that Dave Canales is like, man, I got 9 more games based on what David Tepper has done in the past. And he's fired a first-year head coach in the first year last year like Frank Wright. So he's thinking, hey, what he did with Baker Mayfield, right, in Tampa last year. Andy Dalton, you can be that sort of resurgence type career. Yes, you're 37 years old, but at least you can run the offense. So in my opinion, that's how I see it from the outside looking in, as saying, Dave Canales, I'm not waiting 0-2, the season's slipping away. Let's make a change.
Well, the Athletics beat reporter Joe Person, who is the best reporter in the country to cover the Carolina Panthers, it's not even close, was at the press conference and has closely watched every single snap that Bryce Young has taken over the last year or so. Yeah. He was asking Dave Canales all the questions you were thinking. So why don't we call the Athletics Panthers beat reporter Joe Person right now, just to get some answers really quickly here. Joe, welcome to Scoop City. Thanks for joining us. The news comes down. It feels like the world is in shock because it's just so early in the season. What was the mood in that press conference when Dave Canales was standing up there letting the rest of the world know?
Let me backtrack real quick, though, to the mood in the stadium yesterday, Diana. Yeah. Like, I have not seen and understand, like, this is 7 years of buildup in the Dave Tepper era. But in the very first home game of the year, you had people with bags on their heads. And not like 400, but there was obviously a lot of booing, but then there were also people chanting for David Tepper to sell the team. Like this situation, it kind of reminded me of, in a different way, but like when Tepper fired Ron Rivera and Matt Rule, this was not the case last year with Frank, but it was when the fan base had turned and it was just like untenable. And I think he's looking at this like, yes, this is not a team that's going to contend for the playoffs. But what they were putting on the field, guys, The product they were putting on the field was trash. And I mean, it was so non competitive for the National Football League that they had to make a major change. And you hate it. Bryce is a good kid, all that, but he wasn't getting it done, and it was time.
Joe, Chase Daniel here. Why now, though? You're only 2 games into the season. I've obviously watched, both all 22 videos of Bryce. He does not look like he's processing well. His feet do not match up with the route concepts. Do you think this is a Dave Canales decision, or is this coming from higher ups?
Anybody like Dianna and you, Chase, that knows this franchise knows that nothing happens without David Tepper's blessing. And I think he was heavily involved. Back to just answering that, but also I don't know that I answered Diana's question. Like, they had tape from all of last season on Bryce, and that wasn't really good. But it had gotten even worse, the first 2 games this year. About the mood in the presser, the most interesting thing I heard from Canales, and he kind of snuck it in. He was really not giving much in the way of detail, but he said that he can stand up now in front of the group of 53, and he can say he knows that he's holding everyone accountable, and he can demand their best energy and their best effort and their best performance. And I think we had a situation here where guys were kind of like looking around at each other in the locker room. Like Adam Thielen very publicly yesterday kind of threw a sideline tantrum. But I think it was like, I mean, you guys know, like, the quarterback sets the tone for the whole organization. And it was just not a good energy emanating from Bryce.
Yeah,
in the early
Chase, translate that. Like when Joe says that, what it...
Look, I mean, at the end of the day, as a quarterback, Joe, and you know it, right? Like, the body language that you have tells the entire story. And I saw the Adam Thielen thing, and Adam doesn't mean any harm by it. He's competitive. And when I'm watching this all-22 film, man, from a quarterback room perspective, what I'm seeing, if I'm Dave Canales, is a quarterback that doesn't have the right feet, that's not going to the right place at the right time. Because I'm watching this film, Joe, and there's people open. Specifically, I know for a fact the play that Adam Thielen, after he threw that tantrum, he was wide open and the ball should have went to him. It just seems to me that Bryce really isn't able to get the ball out on time and in rhythm. His footwork's a little bit crazy. But I just go back to, like, bailing on, like, this is unimaginable, Joe. Like, you're bailing on him after 2 games, and you bring in a coach that's supposedly supposed to help him, like, get better. Do you think, I mean, like, how much of an effect did that have on the owner to see maybe C.J. Stroud have the type of success that he's had, and you end up passing on him, and then to trade away all those picks and DJ Moore for the number 1 pick? Like, where does that weigh in on everyone there?
There's not much patience at all in David Tepper. I will say this decision, I kind of agree with it more than some of his other decisions that I feel like were a little more rash. And now, they didn't frame it like this, but you wonder if, like, a guy with, like, and I'd love to hear Chase, both y'all's opinions, but is this like a mental break? Is this an opportunity to get his head right, get his footwork right? I don't know.
No,
like I said, I mean,
Joe, it's not.
Canales had an
It's
opportunity
not.
to say that.
Joe, it's not. You can't do this. This is going to be damaging to this player. If I'm Bryce Young, I'm asking for a trade. I'm going right to the front office.
Who's trading for him, though,
This
Diana?
didn't work. No. It would not be smart for the organization to do it, but for the player. Guys, this is a guy just 2 years ago headed into the draft. The Houston Texans were debating if they should go for Bryce Young if the Panthers weren't going to do it. If the Panthers were going to go C.J. Stroud. We're not talking about a second, third round quarterback here. We're talking about the number 1 overall pick, who now, as you guys have both described so perfectly, has trouble with his feet, can't get through his progressions, can't see defense. What happened? How do you go from being the guy that the teams all wanted and thought could change the direction of their franchise to now we're talking about benching him week 2?
Yeah, well, I mean, at some point, Diana, like, you have to ask, and I am going to ask Joe, like, is it the organization's fault? Is Bryce Young really this bad of a quarterback? Look at Sam Darnold when he left Carolina. Look at what he's doing in Minnesota. Without his top two receivers, they beat probably the best team in the AFC. Look at Baker Mayfield, career resurgent after he left Carolina. It's like the place where quarterbacks and players go to die. They've traded away so many good players. Brian Burns, CMC, they're all thriving in other places, Joe. I don't get it.
No, I mean, but those are great points. And it's hard to argue with them. I do think that in Bryce Young, and he played okay. I mean, we got to such a low bar around here. I said this to somebody yesterday that like even just so play, and I don't just mean quarterback, but just like so plays, you're like, okay, well, it wasn't chaos. But I mean, he was the NFL's lowest rated passer last year. And we all said, well, he didn't have enough protection, didn't have enough playmakers. What did they do? They went out and spent, $100 million on Robert Hunt and like $50 million on Damian Lewis. They followed the Saints model, Chase.
Yep.
For protect and true.
Yep.
Beef up the interior with high-paid guards, or in the Saints' case, guys they drafted. But and then they went in. The playmakers are still lacking and wanting, but they're better than last year, and it still wasn't happening. And so, was it quick? Yeah, very fast. I mean, I thought this would happen maybe week 4, week 6, but it's hard to describe. But if you just had felt the mood around the locker room and the stadium, I'm really not that surprised.
Yeah, I think you're painting a picture of an infrastructure that has not been conducive for a young quarterback that needs growth. And it's all connected. And it starts from the top and it goes all the way through. And this is a Band-Aid right now. This may fix them for a bit. But obviously the Carolina Panthers have tons of questions that they're going to have to answer and address if they want to become a respected organization that can compete. Joe, we know you're on a hard deadline. You're all over this team. Thank you so much for joining Scoop City. We appreciate your insight.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, the next 0-2 team, the Cincinnati Bengals, losing in just heartbreak fashion. It really felt like a playoff atmosphere against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
They had them. Chase, this isn't me rooting for the Bengals.
Do.
They just were so Lou Anarumo once again. We talked about this last week. I wrote about it over the weekend. He has such a good plan for Patrick Mahomes, which is essentially make them kick field goals, right? Keep them out.
Play really good red zone defense. It's exactly what it is.
And the problem is the Bengals offense in the red zone, they went 2 for 4. They got down there, right? They did the hard part, but they weren't able to convert and get touchdowns out of them. So they had 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. But man, Burrow was efficient. He looked good.
Yeah. He looked better. He looked way better than he did his first week, Diana. Just put that out.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And the thing is, the question has been, are we freaking out or are they figuring it out? I'm going to say they're going to figure it out. And it was obvious with this defense, which I think we both can agree. They're older. We all keep saying, oh, this is the Bengals and the Chiefs like we saw in 2022. This is a different team in terms of how much older this defense looks now. And the fact that they were able to hang in there. Look, they gave up yards on the ground. They basically had to say, do we want Patrick Mahomes to throw or do we want them to run? And we'll pick run, right? Because I'm picking run. Mahomes threw 25 times, right? He's normally throwing between 30, 35. They ran it 30 times. So it was really, really good defense. They had a great game plan. Penalties kill you, right? And we know that.
That's the biggest.
I'm not debating that. But do you believe that they have enough? Did you see enough from Cincy to think that they're going to be able to dig themselves out of here?
Diana, they're figuring it out. Look, the 2 years that they didn't do well in the playoffs, one was his rookie year, 2020. He missed 7 games, okay? Last year, 2023, he missed 7 games because of injury, okay? He's been hurt, that calf injury. 2021 and 2022, okay? Lost in the Super Bowl, lost in the AFC Championship game. The years that he stays healthy, Diana, and he looks healthy right now, they are always a force to be reckoned with. Lou Anarumo, 6 starts versus Mahomes, like you were saying. He's 3-3. Okay, easily has Mahomes' number. And I think this is a good sign for the Bengals, really, and for the rest of the league, because Lou Anarumo sort of put on tape what you need to do to beat Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes threw for 150-something yards. It's the second least amount of yards thrown for in any game in his career. Lou Anarumo's a genius. He knows what to do. It does not help that the Chiefs also lost Hollywood Brown for the year, what we're thinking, and then obviously fractured tibula for Isaiah Pacheco. So the door's open for the Bengals
and they don't have T. Higgins.
Noise.
T. Higgins is eventually going to come
either.
back here, right? So that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, and I think for me, why I also say is figuring it out. You got to spin this forward, right, Diana? Bengals next 5 games: Commanders, Panthers, Ravens, Giants, Browns. They can easily be 5-2, 4-3 after this stretch. So I think they're going to figure it out. That offense looked like it was clicking a lot more. Jamar Chase is starting to get more in football shape. We've talked about it on this podcast quite a bit, right? Like, there's some holdout guys. Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco. He's taken a couple weeks to get in football shape. Jamar Chase, they're getting on the same page. I like where they're headed. And as long as you have Joe Burrow, I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, it's a great point you make about just building that cardio back up, getting in football shape. They're just going to get better here. And you're right, the schedule does fare well for them. But look, as one defensive coordinator said to me during that game yesterday, he was texting me, he said, do not give Patrick Mahomes the ball last. That just don't. And we see it happen week after week. All right, from the Bengals to the Ravens, a team that the Bengals are going to see in week 5. The Ravens also 0-2. They lose at Kansas City away. They go back to Baltimore, and they lose to the Raiders, a game that
Come on.
They should have won.
They absolutely should have won.
23-13 in the fourth quarter. Every Ravens team that I've covered, you run the ball, you win it, it's over. You hold on.
You have Derrick Henry, Diana. That's all you need to know. You have Derrick Henry. Run the ball.
I don't understand how they were able, or how they let that game get away from them when traditionally they've always consistently done very well in these situations. Yet on Sunday, it's like the Ravens of old, they were gone. That was not the typical John Harbaugh type game that we're used to seeing with them giving that away. At one point, I flipped over to a different game and figured that one was in the can, it was over. And I went back, I'm like, wait, the Raiders tied it up? So really credit to the Vegas Raiders here for making it competitive and getting a win. But are you concerned? Are you freaking out? Or do you think the Ravens can figure this out?
I'm guessing you're freaking out, right?
Based on my tone?
Yeah.
I'm freaking out because this doesn't seem like the Ravens we've seen with Lamar Jackson over the years. He even admitted we lost. We're looking for our mojo. Like, we're looking for a mojo. It's week 3. Your mojo should be like in your bag, in your cleats, on your hair. Like,
you should be in your bag with mojo.
It should be in your Gatorade, like somewhere, like in your cleats on the grass. Like, why are you looking for it? Where is it? You know?
I'm freaking out.
So you're with me, all right? See,
I am. No, 100%. This is not the old Ravens where they can just take over a game with that defense that was so good. Usually when you're up 23-13 in the third quarter, right? You're going to win a game. You have King Henry. You went out there, you got him. You lost 2 guys. You went up, you replaced him with King Henry. Their defense gave up 4 straight scoring drives.
You say King Henry. Why are you acting like this is,
he almost had 100 yards.
Young back?
He almost had 100 yards, Diana.
Okay, no. He still has talent and ability. He's Derrick Henry. I understand that. But he's still an older back who isn't great on third downs, who takes a while to really warm up.
You got to run him downhill. You can't run him side to side.
No way. And he's clunky. And these were some of the things that you saw even last year in Tennessee. Which is why I don't think his market was as robust as I was expecting it in the offseason. Look, we knew that the Ravens had their eye on him for a while. That they always believed that he was going to be that missing piece that they needed. But they fill it with Derrick Henry, but their O-line is obviously still struggling. I think that's probably where my biggest concern is, and it's quite the theme in the NFL right now. If you're not winning up front, you're not going to have a lot of success. So from the Ravens to the Rams, who are also 0-2, losing to Arizona in a tough 41-10 loss to Kyler Murray. Are you freaking out, or do you think that the Rams have it figured out?
Sort of freaking out here. Not going to lie. You allow Kyler Murray to go 158.3 quarterback rating, which is perfect. He's the second person in NFL history to throw for over 250 yards and rush for 50 yards and have a perfect rating. This is absurd. I don't understand what's happening. Look, I do get that Puka Nacua, he's out. He's on IR. Cooper Kupp, to me, does not look the same. That run game, Kyron Williams, does not look the same. That offensive line does not look the same. So, yeah, I'm freaking out a little bit, Diana. Not going to lie.
I'm freaking out because I said that they weren't going to miss Aaron Donald. Well, guess who misses Aaron Donald? The Rams.
Man, yeah.
I mean,
Jared
I know
Verse,
those are young.
the rookie, is not Aaron Donald, so he's hard to replace.
I know they're young, but I really noticed it in that game against the Cardinals that there was a problem. I was texting with the coach there, a veteran coach actually, and he's been on plenty of teams and seen a lot. And he said, I think this may have been the worst loss I've ever experienced. I'm like, wait.
Really?
What? He said all of it. Every part of it it really punched this team in the gut. And I'm curious to see how Sean McVay is going to rally. He is obviously a phenomenal leader, a phenomenal schematic play caller. He has that reputation, but to be 0-2, I don't know if Sean McVay has ever been 0-2 as a head coach. So to just see how he's going to try to get this team that is injured, right? They were already working from behind here with knowing that health is going to be a major issue. You've got this young defense trying to sort it out. And Matthew Stafford, who's getting older, who's still fantastic, but I'm freaking out.
I can tell by your voice. I think this is the most freaked out you've been of any of the teams. Why is that? Just because you don't – I mean, they're in the NFC West. Very difficult schedule. 49ers, right? Seattle Seahawks are good under first-year head coach Mike McDonald, and then they lose to the Cardinals, right?
Yeah, and look, my belief and confidence is in McVay's ability to find an answer, and I could definitely see him pulling off something this year where we're like, how did he do that? How many different players? But sometimes I just don't like certain. I get a bad feeling, right? I just get bad vibes.
Are you normally right with your bad feelings?
No, I would be very rich because if I went, I would bet
your mom
those
gets
feelings,
off.
and they don't do very well. I get slammed. Actually, I usually I try to give my husband some pointers. I'll be like, oh, you should take this one, take that one. Yeah, we get killed every week. So don't take my thoughts. So I am panicked for sure on the Rams. All right. You spent most of the summer annoying me, actually, to be transparent.
Let me guess, you're talking about the Colts who are 0-2.
I call them the Indianapolis Colts, the Chasers.
I love them.
Because you love them. Please tell me why you love them, because I don't think they're figuring it out. I'm freaking out.
You're freaking out. I'm figuring it out. Look,
what?
Look. Anthony Richardson, it's game 2. All right, he only played 5 games or 6 games last year, got concussed. He's healthy. He's running the ball more. Was a little depressed when I saw that game film against the Packers. Thought they would do better. Josh Downs, who I think is one of the better slot receivers, not known slot receivers in the NFL. He was out, sprained ankle, hadn't been the same, hurt his ankle, all that stuff. They got all the pieces to the puzzle. They got a good defense. They got a good offense. I think they're figuring it out. They've had a really tough 2 weeks. I mean, look at you. You lose to the Texans barely, okay, and that was Anthony Richardson being bad down the stretch. AFC title contender, in my opinion, with the Texans. And then you lose to Malik Willis and the Green Bay Packers, which just goes to show you how good of a coach Matt LaFleur is, right? And they ran the ball down their throats. They were not expecting that. So I actually don't mind it. I think they're figuring it out still.
Here's my problem. We watched Houston gash their defense in week 1. It was bad. It was ugly. And I understood it because, like we were talking about with the Chiefs, you got to figure out a game plan to prevent C.J. Stroud from throwing the ball all over you. So they chose to try to contain C.J., which then allowed Joe Mixon to have a day. AFC Offensive Player of the Week. Okay, fine. You watch the tape back. Our run D needs to get better. All right? Well, now we've got the Packers with Malik Willis, who we shared wonderful stories about the person, but maybe perhaps not the greatest football player, everybody in the world knows that Malik Willis has struggled in the NFL. And everybody in the world knew that the Green Bay Packers were going to run the ball over 50 times, which is what they did with Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is probably still in an ice bath right now.
Yeah. He was running that thing, though, man. That was impressive.
Okay, but what is so impressive about the game plan when we all know what they were doing, and how does Indy not stop it?
Yeah, Green Bay took their souls, honestly. They ran it right down their throat.
Look, that was one of the most fun games to watch because the energy you could feel through the screen. I wasn't there, but I could see it through the screen. From Matt LaFleur to the players, and just even the way they rallied around Malik.
Lambeau Field's a special place, though, Diana. Like, as a player, I'm telling you, you run onto the field, and you get goosebumps even on the other team. So there could have been a little shock and all there, Anthony Richardson, because when I went up there the first time I played, and the fourth time I played, I'm like, man, this does not get old. All the history there.
Yeah, well, I'm freaking out because when you know the game plan and you can't figure it out with Malik Willis, and then you have your starting quarterback throw 3 interceptions, I am not calm. You are so calm. I need more of you in my life because
I was freaking out about everyone except them. I like them. They're my team still. I stick with them till the end.
You're so loyal. Are you freaking out, or do you think they are going to figure it out in Jacksonville? The Jags lose to the Cleveland Browns. They opened up and lost to Miami. Do you think they still have confidence in Trevor Lawrence after some of the things that we're seeing him do?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think I'm like in the middle. I don't think they're figuring it out, but I'm not freaking out just yet. They should have beat Miami. They were up 17-3 at one point. They should have beat Miami, but also I'm not sure how good Miami is specifically without Tua. So maybe, I guess I just talked myself to. I'm freaking out. What are we doing here, Jacksonville? Come on. I don't know. I mean, you pay him $55 million, Trevor Lawrence. You expect him to carry your team. And they almost have a come from behind win in Jacksonville. Doug Peterson, head coach there. I was with him for 3 years as offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. Another year when I went over to Philly as the head coach. He ain't the problem. I tell you that much. Like, dude's got a Super Bowl. He knows how to coach. It's just, do they have enough talent? And do they have the scheme on defense? Do they have the right quarterback too? Yeah, I'm freaking out about everyone, Diana.
You just came full circle. You started off with.
Sometimes I got to talk myself into it, okay?
See, here's the problem. I asked you essentially, do you think the Jags suck? That's basically what I asked you. Well, Trevor Lawrence answered it. I don't know if you saw that clip, but they caught him taking a look at the iPad, the screen, and the cameras, the lip readers can see him go, "We suck." Right? Like, and you know he was
self-deprecating humor.
Well, I don't know if he was self-deprecating. I think he meant it. I just think he was frustrated in the moment, And Chase, when I was coming up in football, trying to learn the game as a reporter, obviously as a woman, I never played it, so I obviously needed to find some smart people to help me to figure it all out. And so one of my football mentors taught me really early that, the great teams don't say too much. They try to avoid the bulletin board material, and we all know that, right? So over the years, I always it always stands out to me when somebody's saying a little too much and drawing attention. So when Shad Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jags, said over the summer, "Make no mistake, this is the best team assembled by the Jags ever. Best players, best coaches, but most importantly, let's prove it by winning now." I was like, no, don't do it, right? Because you immediately put yourself in a position where everyone is coming after you. And we see it every single week. And the really good organizations coach their players and their own coaches to make sure that they're not giving out that kind of material. But this is an owner saying it.
So the owner gave us bulletin board material.
The owner did.
Calling them out. Let's go.
And I really like Shad Khan.
Yeah, Shad's awesome.
He's awesome, but I'm going to call him out on this one. Don't say that this is the best team you have. Just not yet. Maybe win a few Super Bowls before you get there. So, look, I'm freaking out, but I'm not freaking out in a way I did with the Ravens or even with the Rams, because I didn't really have a lot of hope anyway. So my freak out is just like...
the bar was low.
My bar was low.
I see what you did there.
Yes.
That's actually okay.
So it's really just more a little like...
Yeah. I guess my bar was pretty low too, so they're figuring it out.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. All right, we'll give them that. I'll end with that with you. I'll just say yeah. They'll figure it out, but I still think they will win maybe 4 games this year. And
Wait. 4 games?
That division is good all of a sudden.
Diana.
Look, the Titans are going to bounce back. The Chase Colts are going to bounce back, according to you. And the Texans are going to win the whole thing. So I think within their division, they're already struggling. They're already behind. And obviously, we'll see what happens. We're taping this before the Falcons and the Eagles play on Monday night. So we'll see if the Falcons can turn around, if Kirk Cousins can look more comfortable out there. So we'll be talking about that next episode, I'm sure. All right, still to come. The Bears, they are 1-1. They're freaking out in Chicago. They're going nuts here. We're going to talk to Adam Hoge and Adam Jahns about Caleb Williams, the offensive line struggles, and much, much more. We'll be right back. Back here in Scoop City, it's now time to dive into the Chicago Bears, of course, with their number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams. The team is now 1-1, but they've got some problems on the offensive line. Let's bring in the Chicago Bears beat reporter for The Athletic, Adam Jahns, and Adam Hoge, the host of CHGO. And these two also host their own podcast together, Hoge and Jahns. Guys, the fact that the Chicago Bears are on a Sunday night game, that means business is good, no?
Yeah, Jahns,
Here's the problem. Nope, that's the answer. You answered. You're exhausted.
They're too big. It's too big of a market, and they're always somewhat interesting. They draw well on the ratings are always good. So like they're always on these primetime games at least a few times a year. And then like the conversation we're just having, and Jahns, you said it best in your column, so I'll let you repeat that for this show because you should. But it's just like this is the same. It's the same thing. It's just the same thing over and over again. It doesn't really matter who's playing quarterback or who's coaching. It's the same offensive problems over and over again, Jahns.
Yeah, I called this in my column. You can read this on theathletic.com. Like Sunday night in Houston, Diana, it wasn't Caleb Williams' welcome to the NFL moment. It was his welcome to the Bears reality, where your offensive line is a problem, your play calling is a problem, everything's a problem, and the Bears, in the decade that we've been covering the team, Adam, they lay eggs on prime time, on the road, all the time. That is his Bears reality right now. He's got to overcome that. What is it? They've lost 10 Sunday night games on the road. It's not good, but this is where the Bears are right now.
All right, so it was quite evident that the Houston Texans game plan on the defensive side of the ball was keep Caleb Williams in the pocket, right? They did a really good job of containing him. But in terms of him trying to figure it all out, the speed of the game, the pressures, from this week compared to week 1, give me the good first.
Well, the good for me, Diana, is that I think he wants to be in that pocket. Like I don't see him trying to bail out of there early. And it's almost been a detriment sometimes when he's scrambled out of there that he doesn't just take the yardage in front of him by running a little bit. He's still trying to keep his eyes downfield, which is a very good thing. But there's been a couple moments where he then tries to like throw it and I think one of those interceptions last night was one of those examples. Like I think the Cole Kmet one where he kind of underthrew it. It's like, man, he probably could have just taken 5 yards running there, in that spot. I can't remember if that was a third down or not though. But it's so some of these things that look like a negative on the surface, I actually think are going to be positives that in the long run, because I think he wants to be a pocket passer, and I really think he can be. To your point, he just needs to figure out that timing and how long he can really stand in there before he needs to get rid of that football, especially with this offensive line that's in front of him right now, because it's not good.
That's what I want to get into, Jahns. I'm going to let you shed a little light on not so much just what you observed and what you're reporting, but just what they're saying in the locker room about it, about the fact that it was so obvious that is the biggest weakness of this Bears team.
Like, I think what bothered me is that some of the explanations, like protection is everybody. We'll get this figured out. We're not that far away. We have plenty of time to get to this. Like, it just felt so familiar to explanations in the past, regardless of who's at quarterback, regardless of who the head coach is, regardless of who the offensive coordinator is, to the point where even Cole Kmet, to his own credit, is like, sorry guys, I know we've talked about this before. And like, that's part of the problem. And I think specifically with the offensive line, like we went into the season with more concern about it than I think the Bears had. And I think the problem is our concerns are revealing itself instead of the promise that the Bears thought they had with this group. Like Darnell Wright has to be better as a top 10 pick. Nate Davis was a problem in camp, remains a problem in the regular season. Some of the concerns at guard with Coleman Shelton have revealed itself to be true. So the fixes that the Bears thought they had in place aren't doing the job that the Bears thought they would do come the regular season.
What happened to the storyline, though, of the entire offseason? We were talking about the Bears built this roster up, and this is the best version of the Bears we've seen in years, from top to bottom in terms of the improvements made all over the field. Let's just focus on Caleb Williams and getting him up to speed and getting the number one overall pick, playing at an NFL level. So were we off by giving Ryan Poles and this organization credit for building something great? Is it smoke and mirrors? Is it actually really not that good? Or is it just so early right now? Like, Hoge, like how do you see this right now?
Well, I think there was a lot of legitimate points that were made, and we did that locally too, but because I think we all by default tend to look more at skill positions and weapons and that type of thing. But, here in Chicago, we were also kind of scratching our heads at times during the offseason of like, this is all you did at center was sign a couple guys. One guy you traded for, Ryan Bates from Buffalo, who really hasn't played center a whole lot, and you're going to move him to center. And then the other one was Coleman Shelton, who's kind of more of like a reserve fringe type starter in LA. You bring him in, and it's like, so there were all these positive things and big moves made on the outside and with the weapons and money spent at running back, things like that. But there was still sort of this lingering question mark about the interior of the offensive line. And to be honest, since training camp started, it's been a disaster. Nate Davis is probably not a huge national story, but locally it's been a big story for the last 2 years. He doesn't like to practice. The Bears are frustrated with him not practicing, and I think he was going to lose that starting job at right guard to Ryan Bates, but Ryan Bates got hurt. And last week, actually, Ryan Bates outsnapped Nate Davis in the opener in a rotation. But then Ryan Bates suffered another injury this week in practice, and he's now on IR. So Nate Davis is out there by default. They got nobody else there to put in, even though I don't think they want to play him. So it's the stuff that the interior of the offensive line is probably the least sexy thing to talk about when it comes to football. But right now for the Bears, it's their biggest problem.
Yeah, and if it's going to be considered very, very sexy if it continues to be such an issue, because nobody there is going to want to see Caleb Williams not only dealing with all this different type of pressure, but potentially getting injured because of this, right? That's always the big issue when you're talking offensive line and bad protections. So going into the season, we always put together our hot seat lists, right? And I actually hate that. We got to come up with another way of, because who's, like, when you talk about a hot seat, it's like, just so ridiculous. Like, are they sitting on a heating pad? I was just like a better way we could describe it, But Eberflus was always kind of on the fringe for me whenever I was talking about it, because we know that the Bears had an opportunity to take a move and change coaching and go in a different direction. And then he had this makeover, literally. They put together this great roster. And there's belief internally. I remember having conversations, guys, with the organization before they stuck with him. They really thought that he did such a good job last year. So here we are. We're just 2 games in. We're not going to go talking hot seat, warm seat. But do you think in Chicago right now there is tons of pressure on Eberflus because there's just such a gigantic issue on this offensive line?
I think right now the pressure's on offensive coordinator Shane Waldron.
Why?
Because if you just will kind of separate offense, defense, like the Bears defense, which is Matt Eberflus' specialty, it's working. It gave the Bears a chance to win that game in Houston. As ugly as it looked, the Bears had that opportunity in the final 2 minutes. It delivered a win in week 1. It's on Shane Waldron to put all these new pieces together in offense, and after 2 weeks, they only have 1 offensive touchdown and a lot of negative plays. And Caleb Williams was sacked 7 times and hit more against the Texans, and they didn't do much better against the Titans. So it's on Shane Waldron. But, like, we had this conversation on Hoge and Jahns, like, But then the other extension of this is that Shane Waldron was hired by Matt Eberflus. This is his second offensive coordinator. So when does that blame move from Waldron's desk to Matt Eberflus's seat? Am I doing this right? We got to include the seat in the conversation, right? Like, when does the seat shift from Waldron's to when does the pressure shift from that seat to Eberflus's seat? So I'm not sure we're there yet. The Bears' defense, again, which is Matt Eberflus's specialty, will keep them in a lot of games. They should, and it delivered a win already. But if this offense continues to struggle and Caleb Williams continues to get hit, potentially hurt and banged up, like, that goes to Eberflus eventually.
Yeah, so we obviously have the trade deadline coming up in late October. We'll see what happens over the next few weeks, if they might maybe make a move here to bolster this up, knowing that, as you point out so well, they've got good pieces. They've got, this isn't the Chicago Bears of the past where I just looked at the schedule and went, well, I'm not going to watch that one, because you just know it's not going to be a great performance. Like, they've got something to them. It's just, are they going to be able to fix this gigantic hole to get them through at least the early part of this season? So before I let you guys go, I can't talk to you without bringing up Justin Fields. And I say this because it was you two who informed me of my ridiculous out-of-touch vibes of Chicago when I joined your show last year. And the question was, do you think that the Chicago Bears are going to move on from Justin Fields and, go draft Caleb Williams?
Just like, it seems like it's unanimous. Like, he's the best quarterback. He's going number one, and the Bears are going to take him. Whereas here in Chicago, it's like still this Caleb versus Justin dynamic. But is that your feeling too? Looking, when you talk to people about Caleb Williams?
Just to be clear, you're telling me there's people in Chicago who are weighing Caleb Williams and Justin Fields as, hey, maybe we should roll with Justin and not draft Caleb Williams?
Yes. A lot of them. Like, every day, this is what we deal with here in Chicago.
Wait, is it you guys?
No.
Okay,
no,
I was going to say, I really like you guys, and you're really good at what you do. And then I was about to hop off the pot. Are they doing a bit? Like, I thought you guys were just like trying to get me to be fiery. And at the time, I didn't know you guys that well, so I thought maybe it was just some fun game you're playing with me. And then I realized that it was me that was out of touch with the reality of Chicago, right? That so many Chicago fans wanted to see Justin Fields stay. So now Justin Fields is at the Pittsburgh Steelers. 2-0 on the road. Is he phenomenal? No. Is it a conservative offense? Yes. Is Arthur Smith playing this smart with this young quarterback here as he's continued to grow and develop his confidence? But come on, like, what is this like for you guys watching Justin Fields with the new lever?
Yeah, I mean, I can hit on this one. There's definitely, this got really toxic in the spring before the Fields was actually traded. I mean, locally, the fan base was split and really going after each other, going after us. It was about as ugly as I can remember it, we've both been covering this team for like 14 years now, and it was pretty bad, to the point that I think everybody involved was very relieved when the move was finally made, that it could just put the Bears in a situation, all right, well, this is the path they're on, this is what they're going to do, it's all about Caleb now. And then so for it to look like this through 2 weeks and Justin be 2-0, there's definitely those people that are coming out being like, see, all these things, all these problems that Justin dealt with, they're still there. It doesn't change. And there's definitely some validity to all of that. I think when you really break it down, though, and you understand the logic of why the Bears did what they did, the contract, the clock on all that, it still makes sense. I think most people, probably 95% of the people, understand that what the Bears did was the right thing to do. But yeah, until the narrative on this whole thing is finally changed and the Bears finally do have their quarterback and it's obvious, and it's just going to be the same old conversation.
Yeah, that's what it is. It is so early, So, but to sit and watch the X have success, I think it's always hard, especially if you were on Justin Fields' side. And that's probably the important part of the story I missed out was you guys were asking me because I didn't know so many people wanted Justin Fields to stay there. I thought it was just so obvious that's what Chicago was doing. They were moving on, right?
Yeah, that was a funny moment, Diana. And I will say, though, there's one little tiny nugget in all this, though, that does have Bears fans happy that Justin Fields is playing, and that is that the Bears draft pick moves from a 6th to a 4th if he plays 51% of the snaps. So actually, Bears fans in Chicago are very happy to see Justin Fields play, regardless of what the results are.
Yeah, so there is some good here. Adam, go ahead.
You should be rooting for Justin Fields because of that situation. And really, I don't think we're surprised that he's having that success. He's more experienced. He's going to, albeit probably a better situation for him. But you can't blame the Bears for their decision-making, for all the layers that Adam explained, especially for the future contract and just the benefits of having a rookie contract on your books. It's just on Caleb Williams. Like this is the story now. It's on Caleb Williams. As we move from Justin Fields to Caleb Williams, it's on Caleb Williams to change the conversation about Bears quarterback history because he's the next one in line.
They're good on defense. They're actually very good on defense. Their kicking game's pretty good. Quarterback work in progress. That's where we're at in mid-September, guys. So
it's where we've been at for the past 10 years, Dave.
Okay. I think this is going to change. I can't wait to have you guys back on. Thank you for your time. Thanks for hanging out and joining Scoop City. And we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much.
See you later.
Back here on Scoop City, it's one of my favorite phrases used in football by very tough men usually, and it's when they describe something in the league as just getting a little too cute, right? Decision makers, plays, players doing too much. So we figured we saw a lot of that over week 2's games of just getting a little too cute, and it makes you just think, what are we doing here? What are we doing? And I think we have got to start.
What are we doing?
In the biggest one, without a doubt, it's not even close in Nashville with quarterback Will Levis. What are we doing?
Yeah, not good. Not really. I could say the same thing, Diana. I could say with a clear conscience right now that the Tennessee Titans should be 2-0. They should be 2-0. And it comes down to protecting the football and Will Levis, like back-to-back weeks of throwing. I hate the word awful, but I'm going to use it. Awful interceptions. And you saw Brian Callahan on the sideline just absolutely rip into Will Levis. And look, I don't really care where you're going with this. I'm going to go with it to be like, the Tennessee Titans have all the pieces in the world to be a really good football team. Right now, Diana, they are number 1 in the NFL in yards per game. They're only giving up 200 yards a game, like 206 yards a game. They have all the weapons you want on offense. They, however, entrusted all of this to an unproven player, Will Levis. We're already getting questions asked. Is he going to be the starter moving forward? Obviously, they have Mason Rudolph as the backup. He hasn't looked good, Diana. What are you hearing down there? What's happening?
There is definite frustration in Nashville. There is no doubt. Brian Callahan is pretty transparent, actually, publicly, right? He's saying, like, this was really hard.
I like what he said.
So do I. I don't think he's apologizing for his reaction on the sideline of basically saying, what TF? Or not what TF. This is like mom talk.
What TF?
What TF? That is so bad habit because I'm trying not to curse in my house because the boys are starting to pick up on it.
As you should.
And I know, please, I have such a potty mouth. I'm trying to get better with it. But look, the fact that he was saying and showing emotion on the sideline, which is completely fine that you're doing it, but anyone who's been around Brian Callahan knows that one of his strengths is he's pretty even-keeled. Like, he's pretty chill. Yeah. And obviously, as a play caller, you don't want a lunatic calling your offenses. So then when he's, which we see New York.
Yes. There's some lunatics out there.
So to see him show those emotions on the sideline, to me, that was the ultimate moment of I am frustrated. I know he loves his quarterback. He said he loves his quarterback, but you have to wonder if behind closed doors he's sitting with Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker, the decision maker there, and going, if we want to win this year, we may have to consider this because he's losing us games. No, it just makes you wonder. I don't know.
They're definitely having it. They are, especially after the first 2 weeks. I thought actually Brian Callahan was pretty mild mannered. What do you think Mike Vrabel would have done if he was still there and he was on the sideline? If Will Levis threw those interceptions,
Will Levis would be in Miami right now because they would have traded him. No, I'm just kidding.
That don't fly.
I mean, you got to figure, how Vrabel runs his team. You know what? The difference between Vrabel and a lot of coaches that I've covered is he has very little patience for stupid mistakes. He's okay with mistakes. It's when they're stupid that he can't manage it very well, or at least he doesn't want to deal with it, So Brian Callahan brings a different flavor, but the topic of Will Levis was the most common thing I was talking to people around the league about, which surprised me.
Well, because they should be 2-0. They should be 2-0, though.
That's what it is. I think people see that they have the roster, they're building this thing, and they just don't. They just don't have the answer.
We questioned it earlier in the year on this spot for one of the first podcasts. I'm like, look at the Tennessee Titans defense. They're going to be awesome. Their offense is loaded. You're entrusting it to an unknown, and this is what they are getting back in return.
He carries himself like a franchise quarterback. He just needs to start playing like one. Giants and Graham Gano. Sunday, they became the first team in NFL history to do all three in a single game, okay? Score 3+ touchdowns, allow no touchdowns, and lose in regulation.
Oh, my God.
What are we doing?
That's hard to do. That's unreal. Say that again?
They scored 3+ touchdowns, allowed no touchdowns.
Oh, my Lord.
And they lost in regulation. Right?
Hey,
because
how do you do that? How do you do that?
The Commanders, 7 field goals. 7!
Dang, Jaden Daniels getting to the end zone. Look, I know Graham Gano personally, but at the end of the day, if you can't go and Dayball or somebody needs to make a decision, let's bring a practice squad kicker up or something.
Well, let's clarify what happened here. So Graham Gano had an injury over the last few days before the game. Apparently, he communicated
Clue number one, that you need another kicker.
Communicated that to the front office, or at least to the coaching staff, who then
Clue number
communicated
2
it to the front office. And then they still decided not to bring up another kicker off the practice squad, despite the fact that Graham Gano, who is a veteran kicker, was having issues. So Brian Daboll is getting tons of heat for this. Joe Shane is getting tons of heat for this. Because all the warning signs were there and they didn't make the move. And
they had the punter kicking field goals. So Graham Gano gets hurt in the game. They kick the extra point on the first touchdown that they scored, missed it. They go for 2 the next 2 times, missed those. And oh, by the way, Malik Neighbors' 4th down drop, they should have kicked the field goal to go up, but they didn't have a kicker. So he puts it on Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors. So just outright ludicrous, in my opinion.
All right, how about this? Our last one. Sean Payton not electing an onside kick, right? So Denver gets the ball. They've got 9 seconds left. Whatever the percentage is for onside kicks, it's low, right? But whatever Sean Payton decided to do, it's 0. So it doesn't, I don't care whatever numbers he's saying that they could have done. I think they were going to try to, I don't know what his decision-making was in that moment. All I can tell you is,
it's hard to defend.
The percentage it is hard to defend, and I'm surprised he didn't just admit, because I've seen him in the past go, that was a dumb mistake.
He got too cute.
He got too cute, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, because we got a little too cute too, my friend. We spent a lot of our summer talking about the Denver Broncos and talking about Bo Nix. You and I took this wonderful trip together out to the Denver Broncos joint practice with the Green Bay Packers, and we sat there and we watched Bo Nix, and you and I left.
He was
and
balling.
We could not believe how good Bo was. We were like, he may have a short name, but he's going to have a long career. This guy is so good. And then now with the bullets flying, not very good.
Yeah. Not very good, but I'm going to sort of defend that. Right now, it's 2 games in, and there's a lot to be seen. Yeah, he's thrown 4 interceptions, not great. Honestly, he's looked pretty overmatched, I would say. I'm just going to be honest with you. He's looked overmatched. Everyone saw that, if you haven't, that meme of him in the huddle and the players looking at him trying to call this Sean Payton huge play. It's a lot, right? It's a lot. But also keep in mind, Diana, their first road game of the season was at the 12s, Seattle Seahawks, probably one of the most difficult places to play in all football. And then they come back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, might be one of the top 3 or 4 defenses in all football. So They've got to grow up. They've got to get better. And it starts with the quarterback, but I'm still believing in him.
I see what you're saying. I think we may have just gotten ahead of ourselves a little bit. I think Peyton did what he needed to do, built up his quarterback, try to give him some confidence that you're my guy, I got your back.
Yeah.
I just think we probably need a little bit more time. So we got a little too cute. All right, that'll do it for us here on Scoop City. Exciting announcement this Thursday. So in just a few days, I will be live at Blue Haven in New York City in the Financial District. 7 p.m. for the Athletics watch party of the New England Patriots and the New York Jets. This is going to be a good one, right? The Jets coming off this nice win against the Tennessee Titans. New York is feeling electrified after Aaron Rodgers gets his first win as a New York Jet. And the Patriots, they are. That one is so far has been the surprising one of the year in terms of a team that I didn't think would be very good. Are you giving me homework assignments?
Yes, I am.
All right, next show, I'll bring you something. So this Thursday, Mike Sando and I are going to be there. We've got a special guest appearance from a diehard New York sports fan, a Jets fan especially, Anthony Ramos. So he's going to be at the watch party with us, and we're going to get into all of our superstitions, and he's going to be a guest on our next episode. So awesome. You guys are going to hear from him, and we're going to just get a little temp check. How is he feeling about the Jets, right? Because I think everyone in the New York area is like, I don't know, maybe. Right, so, all right, so we will be doing that Thursday, and of course, we will be back with you on Friday. Thank you all for tuning in. Thanks to our team and everybody else involved today, and of course, Joe Person dropping in to give us all the Panthers news. We will see you guys next time.
Bye, guys. Tag me next time.
Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.